What's up, guys? So today I'm going to tell you guys how to pass your CNA test in one try. So for me, I took it at American Red Cross. I had another option to take it at Pearson VUE. Of course, I feel like depending on where you live, the options are going to vary and it could be different. But for me, I took it at American Red Cross. And it was $110, and I know Pearson VUE was $100. I couldn't take it at Pearson VUE because of COVID difficulties, so then I had to end up taking it at American Red Cross, which is fine. It doesn't really matter because you're still gonna pass it anyways. It doesn't matter where you're gonna take it. So for the test, how it's set up into two parts. One part, the written exam, and the second part is the skills portion. The written part has 100 questions. Honestly, a breeze. I was the first one to finish. Not to flex, but it wasn't really that hard. It was mostly common sense. And what I did to study for the written portion was I used this app called CNA Test Genie. It gives you 2 free practice tests. Personally, to me, I feel like that's all I needed. I didn't really have to pay for the extra test, but you can if you want to, if that makes you feel better, if you want to pay for like the full thing. I think it's like the premium, and you get a bunch more practice tests and stuff like that, and it gets like harder, so probably more prepared than I was, but I feel like those 2 free ones were enough. And also reading my notes that I took from the class. You shouldn't stress too much about the written portion. To me, to be honest, it was pretty easy, so that one was a breeze. The skills portion is another thing. It was a little bit harder. To me, it was a little bit more nerve-wracking just because there's a lot of things that could go wrong. And so the way I studied for that was I studied beforehand. I try not to cram too much because there is quite a few skills you have to study, and there's like a lot of things you have to remember within the skills. So I started studying a week beforehand and the 3 days before my test, I would study just like hardcore. Like I would just really go at it. But it wasn't too bad. Everything kind of just became like, what is the word that I'm thinking?
Second nature?
Yeah, like second nature, I guess. Like kind of like muscle memory, like you just started going through the motions without really thinking about it. So that's why it's best not to cram last minute. So, and also I would really suggest going back to your school, seeing if they'll let you kind of practice in like a separate room with the materials that you would need for the test and stuff like that. It honestly helps a lot. It helps you kind of like get into practice of going and grabbing the materials that you would need for the skill and like coming back and sanitizing and all the little stuff. So I'd really suggest going back to your school to try and practice the skills. And on the skills test, everything is done on a mannequin, so you do nothing on a person because of COVID, because 2020 things. But it's like it has its ups and downs for testing on a mannequin. Like I feel like you'd get more help probably like if you're trying to turn someone, if they're like an actual person, because for the mannequin it's kind of hard to like move their body, like kind of bend their legs if you're doing like perineal care, or if you're turning them, the instructor, the person that's watching you take the test has to hold the mannequin, so it gets like a little complicated and kind of messes up your flow. So there's ups and downs to it. And also, since everything is on a mannequin, some skills are taken out from American Red Cross because you can't do it because, like, say, vital signs, obviously you can't take blood pressure on a mannequin. So they took that out. They also took out respirations and reading their pulse. But for the height and the weight, it's like they kind of like simplified it. So instead of doing it on a person, you would just read the height and the weight that's already set up on the little machine thingy. So you don't really have to do like the steps where you lift them up, like take them out of bed, put like the skid socks on, and then put them onto the weight machine or like the scale or whatever. So that one is simplified. It's still on there. So make sure you know how to read the scales. And the skills are separated into 4 sections. So you're going to have 4 skills. First station, hand washing. Every single person is going to have hand washing. I think it's like that for the rest of the test places, but if not, then I don't know. But I know for American Red Cross, they have hand washing on there for sure as the first skill. And then the second station will be all about personal care. So probably like bed baths or changing their gowns and stuff like that. And then the third one will be vital signs, measurements, and isolation. So it'll be like PPE or measuring their weight and their height. And then the fourth one will be positioning, transferring, restorative care, or bed making. So like, for example, bed making or range of motion exercises and stuff like that. So what I got on my test was obviously hand washing, and then perineal care, then PPE, and then range of motion exercises on the lower body. So that's basically how the test is set up. And on like more tips on how to study, I would really not more tips on how to study, more tips on during the test I meant. I guess number 1 is to relax. For me, I'm the type of person to get really nervous and start overthinking. So the skills portion was pretty nerve-wracking. And I feel like if I just kind of relaxed and trusted myself, because I prepared so hard and I should have trusted myself more. And I feel like I wouldn't have forgot some of the things that I forgot during the test. So being relaxed and just trusting yourself and making sure you prep for the test is really going to help you kind of just make sure you memorize everything and you don't forget like the small things. And then the second tip is remember to do the things that aren't there. So what I mean by that is, for example, they don't have privacy curtains there, so make sure you open and close the privacy curtains or ask them if they want the privacy curtains open or closed, even though the mannequin can't respond. So make sure you're very verbal. When you're talking, I feel like some people tend to forget because since it's not an actual person, they feel awkward talking to a mannequin, but try to really verbalize every single thing that you do. And then don't forget the things that aren't there, like I said, like privacy curtains or washing your hands and sanitizing before you leave and enter the room. So things like that. And then another thing is when they ask you, every time you finish a skill, they ask you at the end if there's anything that you want to change in the 6 principles of care. All you guys should know it. That's the number 1 thing you should know for the skills. And at my testing site, they had the 6 principles of care like posted up like on every part of the wall in the room. So you shouldn't really forget it. To be honest, they even put it there. So when they ask you what you feel like you should add or fix or something for that, I would really say just kind of slow down. I was getting rushed, so really just slow down and think about like everything that you did from the beginning to end and see what you didn't do and what you should add and fix. And then that could really like make or break your test score or something like that. Like, it could determine if you pass or fail. So for me, I forgot to close the privacy curtains on one skill, and then I set it at the end. Or when I did PPE, I didn't poke my thumb through the sleeve to put like the glove over so it doesn't fall. And I just set it at the end, and then honestly, if I didn't say that, I really feel like I wouldn't have passed. So make sure you really take that time to think about it, because it's going to be really important and vital towards your test score. And another tip is to set yourself up for success. So don't be late. Make sure you leave early. Like I left extra early. Like me and my boyfriend were waiting there for like a cool hour and a half before my test. Because I really didn't want to be late, because I feel like it was just too important to mess up, you know. And I also, the night before, I prepped what I was going to wear. I wrote down a list, to make sure that I look at it and I don't forget anything before I leave. I packed all my snacks, packed my water, all the papers that I needed for my test, put it all in my bag, and I made sure I calculated what time I would have to leave my house and stuff like that. So just make sure you take the extra steps to being prepared. It'll make everything a lot less stressful. And make sure you sleep. Make sure you get sleep before. Don't try to like overstudy. I tried like the way I tried not to overstudy was I would study and then play some video games and relax for like maybe like a couple hours, and then study again, take a break and study again, and then take a break. And then the night before I made sure that I didn't study too late. And also I honestly played some games the night before just to take my mind off the test. I didn't really want to overstress because I feel like if I overstress or overstudy, I'm just gonna forget every single thing that I studied. So that's a really important thing. And another tip too that I have is have someone else take you. I feel like it would be a lot less stressful, kind of like help relax you if you're like with someone and like you're talking with them. My boyfriend took me, so it was a lot better than me going by myself. And also I was able to kind of review things before we got there, a little bit before we got there on the drive. So that was also really helpful. And last tip is, it is not the end of the world if you don't pass. It's fine. Like, you have 3 tries to pass. Though I guess the only thing that sucks is that it's gonna cost $60 every time you retake it. But I mean, you're gonna be a CNA. You can make that $60 back in like what? Half of a shift. So you're chilling. Like, it's not really a big deal. And you have 3 tries. So it's honestly nothing really to worry about. So just relax and just trust yourself and you should be good. So that's all my tips on how to pass your CNA test on the first try. And remember, just relax and you got it. And let me know if you guys want some videos on if you want to see how to do the skills correctly that are from the American Red Cross study guide. Because if you guys have seen it already, some things are kind of confusing and unclear, especially because they switched up a lot of things for like COVID purposes. So let me know if you guys want that. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Okay.